So we know that we want to live in free nature, and that we're either in free nature, being the best version of ourselves, the healthiest, happiest version of ourselves, or we're in bound nature, where we're letting that inner monologue, those limiting beliefs, that negative self-talk keep us trapped in these recurring patterns that have caused us to end up in a place where we want to make a change, and therefore why you find yourself here, right? So we're free or we're bound. And in order to be free, in order to be the best version of yourself, realize your vision for your health and your happiness, you have to see that bound nature, choose not to engage with it. How do we do that? Well, I introduced observations, morning journaling observations in week 1, because we're trying to shine a light on what's happening up here, particularly that negative self-talk, because now we find ourselves a couple of weeks down the line going back to that, looking back over those morning observations and identifying 2 or 3 recurring stories that you're telling yourself. So these are stories that are negative about you or about how the world works that you're telling yourself over and over again, and they will be there. If you've engaged in the observation and you've done it with intention to really see what's going on in your mind rather than as a tick box exercise, then they are there. And what those limiting or non-serving beliefs, so they're the beliefs that underpin the stories, what are they telling you about yourself? I want you to take the most pernicious of those beliefs, i.e. the one that if you could reverse engineer it, is going to quiet that negative self-talk the most. You know, beliefs tend to create multiple different stories. So if you can find that one that is under 2 or 3 or 4 of your recurring stories that you're telling yourselves, that's the biggest bang for your buck here, right? Let's give you an example, because you're probably thinking, what on earth is Rory talking about now? An example from my own life, but a common block is fear of failure. Now, the manifestation for me, the non-serving belief that I have held, that I'm changing over time, is I won't succeed because, and there might be various different endings to that sentence, but it's this belief that no matter what I try, I won't succeed. Now, I want you to take that belief and do this same exercise that I'm going to run through with you now. So in your journal, you're going to write this out. You're going to follow this last slide of the module. You're going to write, what does it feel like? Now, for me, I won't succeed. I feel scared, anxious. I'll engage in avoidance. I feel like I'm in a low mood. I'm lacking confidence. What does it sound like? Well, that internal language, and I might even verbalize it to myself or to somebody else, is, I'll do it later. Or, why bother? I'll only fail anyway. Or, you know, I think, yeah, I am going to do it, but I'll start it tomorrow. I won't do it immediately. Or just, I can't do this. I'm not capable of this. Even if I try, it won't work. And what does that look like in terms of my actions, my behavior? Well, it's going to be procrastination. I'm going to delay doing something unnecessarily. I might start pacing around as a way of trying to discharge that kind of negative energy. I'm going to be distracted, and I'm going to actively seek out distraction to avoid having to think these thoughts, to try to avoid the emotions, to avoid feeling scared or anxious, or to avoid acknowledging that I'm lacking confidence in this area. And if I was to anthropomorphize this belief, it's a little boy. It's a boy because it's me I'm thinking about, but it's a little boy because the little boy doesn't understand that we all fear failure, that this belief doesn't define who I am as a person, and that by leaning into it, that by seeing it and recognizing it, rather than just trying to kind of bury it and avoid this feeling, that's where my growth lies, right? And the boy doesn't understand that, but the man that I am and that I want to be, that is embodying my vision, understands that, right? So I'm sort of reducing it by thinking about it as a little boy. And then I'm further kind of reducing it and making it easily recognizable to myself by giving it a name. Now, this is a fear of failure. So I'm going to make it alliterative, and I'm going to call this little boy Fearful Fred, right? And then every time I see Fearful Fred, and what do I mean by I see Fearful Fred? I recognize this belief. If I'm telling myself I won't succeed, or I'm saying, why bother, I'll only fail, or I'm feeling anxious or scared or lacking confidence, and I've got that combination of trying to procrastinate or delay something, I'm seeing it. And I can say, oh, hello, Fred. Nice to see you. Make it other than myself. It doesn't define me. Yeah, I could choose to run that Fearful Fred loop again, or I could go, no, actually being Fearful Fred isn't me embodying my vision. It's not taking me closer to my vision. It's taking me further away. So I'm going to see it and I'm going to recognize it. And I'm not going to beat myself up for feeling that way, because that's the nature of what it is to be human. But I'm going to choose to do something different. I'm going to choose to move in a different direction. I'm going to choose the virtuous circle, not the downward spiral. And that's what I want for all of you guys here, is to underpin the most pernicious belief, the one that is, or rather recognize the most pernicious belief that underpins the common stories that leads to the self-sabotage, or that take you away from your vision, that behavior that moves you in the other direction or leaves you stuck where you are. Because it's by recognizing your bound nature and choosing not to embrace it. You have a choice. You're the driver or the passenger. By doing that, by not embracing it, you're stepping into free nature, contentment, fun, humility, confidence, seeing that change that you want to change, realizing that vision, achieving your goals. It's a fantastic feeling to know that you're in control. So grab your journal and start that process. Well done, everyone.